Yes, yes, yes. Oh, you know what that sound means? It's time for In the Paddock F1. Greeny and the Cheese. We're back in the States for the second of three stops this season. We're back in Texas for the 43rd time. It's the U.S. Grand Prix. Texas, known for those big hats, big belt buckles, cowboys, longhorns, and all that barbecue. Send some of that stuff my way, please. Oh, yes, sir. Awesome. It's also home to Willie Nelson, Matthew McConaughey, and Frodo Baggins himself, Elijah Woods. But this is no travel, food, or celebrity show. This is an F1 show. We're racing COTA. Circuit of the Americas, 3.426 miles, 20 corners, 2 DRS zones. Even with the full beans for 58% of your lap. Oh, and what a race we saw today. Max started 6th this week. How about that? But showed patience, cut through the field on a two-stop strategy that was the correct strategy, going medium to hard. Takes his 15th win of the season, ties his own record, his 50th career win. Oh, and then we thought Lewis was second and Norris was third, but oh no. Lewis was disqualified, along with Charles Leclerc for having worn their plank too much, more than the 9 millimeters allowed. So Lando gets second, and Carlos Sainz takes third. We're caffeinated, we're medicated. Greeny, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Cheese. Listen, I'm glad we came out today and not yesterday because we got everything wrong. Everything went wrong.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this. It doesn't even matter because I just got the Godzilla pizza from the place down the street from me. I've been meaning to try the Godzilla pizza, and I assume the Godzilla pizza would be like big, and that's what would make it Godzilla, but no, sir. Guess what the Godzilla pizza was all about?
I have no idea.
It was covered in hot peppers. So the Godzilla in this case was spitting fire. I was hoping for like a big,
well, there you go.
big
That
pizza.
That makes a little bit of sense.
Makes a lot more sense. I
fire.
realized that after I ate the first like super hot like ghost pepper on there. But I survived. I'm here. I made it. That was hot.
You will pay the price tomorrow morning, my friend.
I will pay the price for many mornings to come, my friend. But if I can just make it to the show. In the Paddock F1, Greeny and the Cheese. What a race we saw. Number 50 for Max Verstappen, which we'll get to his place in history a little later on in the show. But, sir, let's get to the big crux of the day. And actually, for you, we have our first presentation here so you can explain to everyone watching at home on YouTube what was going on here. Do you know what we're looking at here?
That is the plank.
That is the plank.
That is the plank. It is a piece of wood that all Formula One cars have on the bottom of the car. You're only allowed to wear it down to 9 millimeters after a race. Anything more than that, your car is running too low, or you're running your car too low. Therefore, gaining an advantage, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a rules violation. And Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc wore their plank too much. Therefore, you're disqualified, as stated in the rules.
That's the plank. Let me see if I can get a better shot of the plank here. But why is this such a big deal, and why this happened now? Why wasn't this checked before we even stepped onto the race, onto the racetrack?
Well,
this weekend?
You put the plank on for the race. Usually they change the plank for the race, so because the car's bottom out. But you get an advantage. You get a little bit of a downforce advantage. Therefore, it's a rule violation. So they check random. I think it's 4 or 5 cars post race. It's usually near the front, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But they checked it, and 2 cars in the top 5 Fail.
Hold on. This just in. I think we have a better shot of the plank. There's your plank, sir.
There's the plank.
We'll get rid of some of the advertisements. But there, sir, is the plank.
Right. That's it right there.
There it
is.
is.
How about that? You got a piece of wood on a Formula One car.
Piece of wood on a Formula One car. Well, mystery solved. A couple of DQs not expected. That was late after the race.
I think it was something like, what was it, like 4 hours or so after the race?
Something like that. All my bets online are still stating the top 6 are still the way they are. Not that it would matter anyway, but we'll get to that later as well. But Max 50. First of all, anything else about the plank? Maybe have 2 cars at the same race, though, have the plank issue. And you have 2 separate cars from 2 separate teams.
Running your car too low.
Both at the same time. When's the last time we had a DQ for a plank?
Gah. I think it's something like 40, 50 years.
Yes, and I have 2. Something's going on. Something's fishy.
Yep.
Something's fishy. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
It's on a plank gate. I don't like it. Something's going on. Did I have one in 40 years? And now all of a sudden I have 2 like from 2 separate teams in one day. Get the yarn out and get the pictures out. We're getting the board. Put it on the board.
If it was the same team, I'd say something's, but it's 2 different teams.
That's bananas.
These teams run the car as low as they can. Apparently, Lewis and Charles' car was just a couple millimeters too low, and pay the price. DQ'd.
Bananas, but them's the rules, and you better follow the rules, or you get DQ'd. Agree with them or not? So, moving along, any other news and notes outside of Max Verstappen's 50th and Lando Norris's 100th race? He ends up in second now, and Carlos Sainz ends up on the podium. Still chasing that first career win. For Lando Norris. I put money down that he was going to win it on his 100th race. He looked good all weekend. He looked good for the first 28 laps of the race, I'll tell you that much.
Well, Max took his time cutting his way through. Showed some patience. Not old Max, who would have charged through and burned up his tires. Took his time, didn't wear his tires out. Red Bull did the better strategy, going medium hard, versus everybody. Most of the other teams that went to 2-stop were pretty much everybody except Charles Leclerc. Good job, Ferrari, on that one. How do you take the guy on pole and put him on a crazy strategy? That makes absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. I don't know why you're gambling a strategy on the guy who's on pole, for God's sakes. That's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. Ludicrous. I mean, I told you what, Thursday? I told you Thursday, I said it's going to be a 2-stop race. Just because of how hot it's going to be in Texas. I told you on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and go 1-stop strategy, unless you're at the back of the field, all right, you could go for that kind of gamble. That's a gamble worth it. Not when you're starting on the front row in pole position. That's ludicrous. Whoever came up with that decision in Ferrari, they should get their pink slip today and just be asked to leave the building, because that's ridiculous. Fire that guy.
That was
that's ludicrous.
Rough weekend all around for Ferrari. Not a good weekend for Ferrari. You definitely ended up backdooring yourself onto the pole there, and with the plank issue, holy moly, it's not looking good for Ferrari. But what it is looking good for,
well, we've known that for quite a while now.
We've known that for quite a while. What it is looking good for is parity right now, because we have a lot of parity here with every single team. With almost every team had a DQ and someone in the points.
Yeah.
So it was still at least a runaway for Sergio Perez, who's probably going to come in second now after Lewis's back-to-back no points. here on the last two
yep,
races, with crashing out last time and then getting disqualified at post-race this time. How do we feel about Sergio's craziest way I've ever seen come in second place?
I mean, because of that DQ, he moved them up the fourth. So that's good points versus no points by Lewis 2 races in a row. So that's gonna be tough to come back. Sergio's probably gonna give everything, especially next week with him being his home Grand Prix in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fans were chanting "Checo, Checo" at the podium at the podium presentation. I mean,
and they were booing Max. Booing Max.
They were chanting Checo.
Yeah.
They were chanting Checo. So
yeah, they definitely booed Max. I'm sure he did not shed a tear. I'm sure he was totally fine. At win number 50. A lot of Lewis fans, and a lot of Ferrari fans is what we see this week.
Lewis is very popular here in the States. He loves America and comes to the U.S. quite a lot. Does a lot of business here on his personal side. So he's got a good fan base here. He goes on the late night talk shows and people know who he is. Max Verstappen doesn't go on those shows and put himself out in front of the fans. So you're definitely gonna have more fans if you put yourself out there in front of people, and they get to see you. They get to see your personality, and Max actually has a pretty good personality. He just never shows it. It's actually a pretty funny kind of guy.
Max is a funny guy. Max is a funny guy, and he
is, but he doesn't show it enough. So it doesn't play well to some people. So
I think that's by design. Listen, you get to a point in life where it's just enough is enough. Let me do my job. Can you imagine going to work, doing your job, doing what you've been trained to do, most of these since they were 5 years old, maybe even 3 years old, right? Some of them so young that they're doing this for so long, and it's just going to work for them. It's going to work. And just like we talked about Lance Stroll, which we'll get to him, I'm sure, later in the program, but just like we talk about Lance Stroll, like it's just going to work for him. And it's really obnoxious when a Lance Stroll does it, and it's different when a Max Verstappen does it, because he just wants to go to work and do his thing. And he does a million other things. If you watch Red Bull YouTube or Red Bull, they always got him doing wacky stuff, especially for Red Bull.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, any final thoughts about Max Verstappen or anyone on the podium here? Or the boards, or the planks, I'm sorry. Not boards. Let's not be bored.
It's a bit of a board. It's a bit of a board.
It's a board, it's a plank.
It's a board.
It's a grinder, hoagie. Depends where you are. Large sandwich.
All right.
Should we end the segment there?
I think we might have to. No, just Max is, dominant. What else can you say? Max is going to win like 19 races. Probably. Maybe 20.
All right. He might be third all time by the end of this season. Third all time. Think about that. We'll talk about that. Stick around. Greeny the Cheese in the Paddock F1. My man. Greeny the Cheese in the Paddock F1. If you're not watching us on YouTube, check us out on the web, on the our podcast. If you're listening to us on the podcast, check us out on the YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Greeny and the Cheese up there in the search box, and our lovely faces will come up, and hopefully you stick around. Thanks everyone for listening as always. And as always, the best way to support the show is to subscribe. So hop on YouTube if you haven't already and subscribe. That is the best way to support this show. We'll never ask you for money. We don't ask you for anything. We just ask you to not panic. Maybe I should be wearing that shirt, by the way. Little switcheroo this year. Little change here this evening.
Don't panic. Yeah,
All right.
I don't think you should. I think you could. I think you can do this week.
All right.
Although I did write losers first, so.
Instinctive. It's been a while.
It's been a while, but I think you have a chance.
Well, the buzzer's working.
Are you ready? Are you ready? To
Let's
take
do
the
this.
trip
Let's do
to
this.
Quizmaster's cockpit.
Home field advantage. Let's see if that it helps at all.
Question number 1. A repeat question from last year's U.S. Grand Prix episode. Let's see if you can get it this time. How many circuits have held the U.S. Grand Prix? And name them.
Name all the circuits? I didn't have to name the circuits before. Oh, like where?
Yes.
Like, so if I said like the 1984 Dallas like GP?
No. It has to be the U.S. Grand Prix. To be the official U.S. Grand Prix. The race in Dallas was not the U.S. Grand Prix. Versus, example, the Miami Grand Prix is not considered a U.S. Grand Prix.
Right.
It doesn't have the name U.S. Grand Prix.
This is true.
So how many circuits have held the U.S. Grand Prix? It came close last year.
Just the number of circuits? How did I come close last year? I don't know. Indianapolis.
All right. If you can name the circuits, I'll give you the number. How about that?
I don't know what you're talking. I'll just name the circuits. Watkins Glen.
6 circuits have held the U.S. Grand Prix.
Okay.
So you said Indianapolis. That is correct. Watkins Glen. That is correct.
Obviously, Circuit of America.
Correct. 3 more.
Was Long Beach the U.S. Grand Prix?
No.
Where else did they host?
I'll give you
Vegas.
one more.
The Vegas one? That was a one-off as well.
No.
Phoenix? That was a one-off.
Phoenix was actually the U.S. Grand Prix.
Phoenix was the U.S. Grand Prix. Detroit?
Incorrect. The other 2 were Sebring and Riverside.
Oh, yeah. That was the Cali one.
Well, as per the usual, we're off to a flying start.
Got high hopes. And they were dashed.
You know, I didn't come in here and tell you this week you have no chance to call me the worst teacher ever. I should give you some positivity. And you stink. And I give you a repeat question from last year's episode, too. And you stink.
All the episodes are free, so I shouldn't go check them out. That is true.
Question 2. So disappointed. Disgusted I am right now. Max and Red Bull have won 3 straight races at COTA. But Red Bull's won 4 times at COTA. When did that 4th win occur?
Ooh.
And who was the driver?
Was it Danny in 2017?
That is incorrect. It was 2013.
Seb? Seb in 2013. Assume it was Seb.
0 for 2.
I thought you would go with a Danny Rick question because he was back on the track.
He didn't win Diddley Poo.
I know, but you know.
Question 3. Maybe you could get 1 this week.
Probably not.
Maybe 1.
I like the sound of the buzzer. I haven't dusted the bell off in a while.
Well, you don't even need to ring the bell, really, because you bomb every week.
Just dust it off.
So after the disqualification of Hamilton and LeClerc, Logan Sargent finishes 10th and gets his first points in Formula One. The first time an American has gotten points in 30 years in Formula One. So, who was the driver that got points as the last American to get points in Formula One? Can you name it? Come on.
Wasn't Mario Andretti?
It was not Mario Andretti, you fool.
He said it wasn't. I have no idea. Wasn't it Michael Andretti?
Was Michael Andretti.
I knew it was one of the Andrettis.
1993, the Italian Grand Prix. Finished on the podium, third.
Wow, 30 years ago.
In the McLaren. 30 years. Last time an American got points in Formula One.
30 years. You got 30 years. Last time American got in the U.S. Where was Andretti's last points?
What's that?
Where did Andretti score those points, Michael Andretti?
Italian Grand Prix.
Italian Grand Prix. I'm sorry, you did just mention that.
So that would have been Monza.
Yes, I understand that. No, I was just so he got it in the U.S. this time. I think it's monumental.
Yes.
Kind of a backdoor slide in there. Obviously, he was not in the points. You texted me earlier. Did this save his season? Probably not. That's ridiculous. The planks are the MVP right now.
We'll get into that later.
The planks are the MVP. Do you want another picture of the plank? Should I bring the plank up again?
No. That's up to you, but
continue.
I know what the plank looks like. I know what the plank does, so...
Continue.
Well, you're a loser, so therefore, we go right into losers. And my first loser... I'm going to give it to Piastri. Teammates up there finished second. He had a rough weekend. Banged with Ocon. Had the tire because the car was overheating. Damaged the radiator and such. But just a bad weekend for Piastri when Norris was pretty much up front most of the weekend. And I debated giving this team the slack. But I decided to give it to somebody else. And that's your team, Haas. Just awful. Bring this giant upgrade package, and you're still trash.
You could have slapped them. You could have slapped them. They deserve a slap this week. They deserve it. I'm glad you're taking it this week. I'm assuming you have someone in that book of yours that you're going to slap. Yes. No, I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah, another loser is, to add to that pain, pretty much every team lost someone after Hamilton and LeClerc went out. But I'm going to go ahead and give it to... It's a tough weekend. It's tough because there's a lot of guys that went out. How about Aston Martin? Or at least, not Aston Martin. They can always be losers, at least this time. But Fernando Alonso, he was rough all weekend, man. He was rough at quali. He was rough all weekend. I don't think it's the car, and I think he's feeling it through the end of the season. I hate to call someone like that a loser because he is a warrior for taking it this far in the season. But Aston Martin had at least Alonso had a rough one. His teammate didn't have a rough one so much, but he did at least. I mean, both Haas drivers stunk.
I mean,
it's hard to give it. It's hard to give it to Danny Ricciardo.
I mean, you can say Ocon too. 2 out of the last 3 races he hasn't finished.
Yeah, he hasn't finished 2 of the last 3 races. I get that. I mean, you said Oscar Piastri, who's been great up to now. He had a rough weekend. I gotta say, whoever screwed up the planks, both teams. Come on now. But I think we have a lot more winners and losers this week. There's not much to on the loser side this week. A Coda's a brutal track, man. It's a brutal track. It's a tough track. So, you got to give up to everyone, especially in the conditions, especially in the heat, especially everything that happened in Qatar. There's like PTSD probably from Qatar. It was probably rough getting back in those cars after that, and then coming in. And I know it was cooler race day, but it was hot Friday and Saturday. Those were hot days. So, yeah, that's what happens when you race in Texas.
It's the heat of Texas, baby.
All right, so there must be a lot of winners. So
we got winners. Give it to Williams, double points. How about that?
Gotta give it to Williams.
How about that? Double points. Logan Sargent gets his first points. Home race. That could be a massive confidence boost for him. So give it to Williams. Yuki Tsunoda, 8th place. Was in the points before the DQ. Moves him with the 8th.
Fastest time.
Fastest lap. Well, they they went for the late pit stop and threw on the soft. So
yeah,
I mean,
only team to throw on softs the whole race.
Well, yeah, because nobody else wanted to stop more than twice. So
yeah, but
they have the time advantage there. Threw him on, got the fastest lap, so they get that extra point. But 8th place finish for Yuki. We trashed him a lot on this show. So
yeah, it's been a topsy-turvy week with that.
Give it up. Give it up when you can, I guess.
Topsy-turvy. It's going to make me vomit, but I'm going to give it to Lance Stroll. He started 19th, finished 7th. Aston Martin looked terrible really all weekend. We just gave, Alonso and talked about that. But Lance Stroll finishing 7th in points. He hasn't got points. I don't even know how long it's been since Lance Stroll put points on the board. He was in 7th or 8th.
Probably before the break.
Yeah, he was in like 7th or 8th at one point in the driver's standing this season, and now he's 10th, or at least he was. He probably moved up after that. It's so hard. Well, I don't want to give Sergio Perez any credit. I really don't. Even though he got all those cheers. They loved him. They love him in Texas. They really do. I'm going to give it to Pierre Gasly. 6th. Alpine. I know there's been a lot of investment and a lot of time and investment in Alpine recently. Alpine's kind of going the way of like selling like half a percentage of their team to celebrities and trying to get some money that way. A very, I guess, new way to do business where you sell a small piece. It's almost like a stock. It's like telling someone that owns like a stock in the Packers that they own like they own the Packers. Yeah, but
Alpine right now.
Everyone's running over to Alpine, and they better do well. They better get in some points, and Pierre Gasly did. Took advantage of that and finished 6th. So you got to give him the winner. I didn't see anyone else impressive on the grid here. Not much losers, not much winners. Again, Coda's a tough track, man. But I see it in your eyes. I see you got the powder out. Somebody's got to get slapped.
Well, you started to bring it up, but then he just went to Alonso, but it's Aston Martin getting the slap. I mean, you bring this massive upgrade, and you didn't know what the hell it was going to do, and it went the exact opposite of what you thought it was going to do. That's embarrassing. That's bloody embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Then you got one of your drivers, Fernando, says, no, give me the old car. This thing is trash. I mean, I've never seen that before. I've never seen somebody go, no, I want the old spec car. I don't care if it's to start from this pit lane or not. Give me the old junk. It's better than the new junk. I mean, I've never seen that before. I've never seen somebody say, no, I don't want to use it. And then they pretty much come out and say, yeah, we're using this session as like a research. That's what we're going to use this race for. I mean, that's embarrassing. Lance Stroll did a nice job, as you said, getting up to him with 7th or something like that. But still, that's embarrassing. That's
listen. It's really tough.
So bad.
And the FIA put everyone in a terrible spot. And we're running very long in this segment, but the FIA put everyone in a terrible, terrible spot. We're going to end it here. What they did was ridiculous. Everyone brought upgrades. You got 3 races in a row coming up. Everyone brought upgrades, and you have one practice session. You have one practice session when everyone brings upgrades into a 3. This sprint race is out of control. Out of control. It screwed up everything. In the paddock, Greeny and the cheese. Stick around. We got something coming up. Greeny Bucks is coming up.
Yes. We're back in the paddock F1 Green the cheese. Oh, you know what that sound means? It's time to take that fantasy ride to that fantasy island of Greentopia, where the beer flows like wine and the wine flows like beer, and the cannabis grows as far as the eyes can see. Look at it out there. Green and luscious. Take a little whiff. That air smells fantastic. Take a little walk to the top of the hill. Take a sedan. Are we cashing in? Or are we checking out?
I'd like to learn how to play the steel drums one day.
Go to Jamaica.
I don't think you have to go to Jamaica to learn how to play the steel drums.
Just go there and find out.
There's probably more Jamaicans that live within a 10-mile radius of me right now than there are in Jamaica. Okay? You know this. For those who don't know, I just live right outside of New York City. So, yeah. I don't need to get no steel drum lessons in Jamaica. It'll be nice. It'd be nice.
We could be a lot nicer weather than where you're at right now.
Be a lot nicer weather than we're in the northeast of the U.S. right now. That is absolutely for sure. At least we're not getting a foot of snow as it is in the Central Plains this week. So enjoy that for those of you listening in the Central Plains and Rocky Mountains. Happy winter. Winter to ride early. Trick or treat. No, we'll take snow.
Oh, that's a bummer
Good
for
times.
the kids.
That's a bummer for the kids. Sorry, kids. Yeah, I don't think we had any Halloweens. I don't recall any Halloweens getting snowed out when I was a kid.
No.
Got any? Any?
No.
No. Anyway.
Let's get to business.
Let's get to business. I lost everything. First of all, Lance Stroll, the aforementioned, had the biggest gainer. None of us picked Lance Stroll.
I thought about it for some odd reason, but went with Alonso. And he did not finish.
Yay. Yeah, you had Max for the win. So you got the win, sir. Bing, bing, bing. And that was the only points of the day.
You did not have Max for the win.
I did not have Max for the win for once, so I get no points for that. I had Lando Norris in his 100th race getting his first win. That did not happen, but for 28 laps, it looked like it might possibly, potentially happen, but it didn't. I picked Max to actually crash out in this race because I can do that with a 2,600 Greeny Buck lead for now. But I did just waste. I just dropped 450 more Greeny Bucks, and you slightly gained some Greeny Bucks. Look at that, 300 minus 150. And Alonso coming back as your biggest gainer. That was wrong. I don't even know why I had my biggest gainer. Doesn't matter because that was wrong. I think I also had Alonso. Doesn't matter, yes. It's wrong. I did not have Lance Stroll. So, cut all that up, and you gained 150 Greeny Bucks, giving you almost 5,700 Greeny Bucks to my close to 8,000 Greeny Bucks because of my big trifecta win with my long shot McLaren Max Special. And you, sir, just picked up about 600 Greeny Bucks on me. That's not bad. Tighten it up.
Chip, chip, chip. Chip, chip, chip. Chip and well.
Not many races to go, though. So, you, sir, have to hit a good, nice trifecta.
I know you'll play some ludicrous bets coming up here soon.
You gotta hit a nice trifecta. Nice trifecta.
Almost had one this week.
Almost doesn't count. This is not hand grenades, sir.
No.
Speaking of hand grenades, let's check out what's in the news. In the news.
All right, first story here for you. Logan Sargent got his first points in Formula One at his home Grand Prix. You started to mention it a little bit before, but I knew that's why you stopped, because you knew it was coming up later. Does that save his seat for next season?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier. I think it's ridiculous, especially under the circumstances. You had 5 DQs in the race, so pretty much you have to finish in the top 70% of the field. So he finished the race pretty much, is all you can say. I mean, I guess.
In the points, finished ahead of both your guys.
My guys stink, and so do their cars. Williams is a better vehicle this year. You have to admit that.
Well, that's absolutely.
For sure.
He's also a rookie.
He's also a rookie. He's also
you got two wily veterans in the car.
Well, they're veterans. I don't know how wily they are. They're veterans. Nico Hulkenberg was on a farm in Australia 2 years ago. Retired. They came and found him. He was retired. He was done. Let's bring him back. So yeah, they could have went out and got a Logan Sargent. Why not? But
they didn't want young drivers.
They didn't want young drivers. So you get old farmers instead.
That's sad.
That's truth. That's the truth, son. That's a dose of truth right there. All right. Next story.
Checo finished 4th, but they were chanting his name during the podium celebrations. Will they still be chanting his name in 24? Is he going to keep his seat?
Listen, besides our audience, a lot of Formula One fans are dumb. All right? And they're just cheering for whoever. There's a gazillion Mexicans in southern Texas. They're rooting for their home, just like it when I don't know, Alex Rossi or something is racing for the, just like anyone that's racing, anyone that's racing for the U.S. If you're overseas or you see them, you're gonna cheer. You're gonna cheer your home team, just like when you go to the Olympics, which we'll be having this summer. And yeah, there's some sport where Bulgaria has one of their 14 athletes, like pole vault or something, and the guy comes in 17th, and they're all yeah, because you're rooting for their country. So Checo, they're gonna root for him. Of course, they're gonna root for him. Doesn't matter. He's still gonna stink, but they're gonna root for him. I mean, if he can't, honestly, the car's not getting better. That car's not getting better. It's probably at its peak right now. Would you agree that this Red Bull car is at its peak right now?
Yeah.
So if he stinks in this car, I mean, again, he's going to come in second overall this year. I guess there's something to be said about that. But if you can't compete every single week with a car like that, I don't know. But they're going to cheer his name because it's his home country. Compatriots.
That's great, but that didn't really answer the question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are they going to be... Are they still going to be chanting his name next year? Is he still going to be in that seat?
Yeah. He's going to be in that seat. I'm sorry. I missed that right over my hat. Missed that. Yeah, he's going to be in the seat. Where's he going? Who's filling this place? Charles LeClerc is not going in. Lando Norris is not going to ride for Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton's not coming.
I don't know if they would want to. They're under contract, so they,
they're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere.
I wouldn't.
So who are you going to put in there?
Well, if anything happened, it set off, a chain of events, and it'd be.
You going to put Yuki in there?
Dominoes.
You going to put Yuki in that seat? You
could
can easily put Yuki in that seat. Are you going to?
Could put Danny back. I wouldn't. I'd put Danny in that seat first, personally. I don't think Yuki's shown enough consistency to be able to be in that seat. He'd crumble.
Do you think Danny Ricciardo...
Ricciardo could deal with that pressure just because of his attitude. And you put him... Danny was good when he was at Red Bull. He probably should never have left Red Bull. And went to Renault, and then bounced around, and then, wasn't his, was inferior car, and wasn't able to put up the numbers. And I think that definitely messed his career up. He should have stayed at Red Bull, but he didn't want to keep being the number, he wanted to be a number one. Probably should have stayed and been a number two, because Red Bull's pretty much been right there behind, Mercedes that whole time, so...
He tried. Got to give it up for the man trying.
Didn't work.
All right.
All
right. Next story. Checo's not going anywhere. Next story.
Lando Norris came out and said there should be harsher penalties for the drivers in F1. The example, when you pass somebody off the track, instead of a 5-second penalty, should it say be 10? Thoughts? I say yes.
I say, and I think we were speaking about this, about changing up the curbing for the racing to just pretty much prevent vehicles from going around regardless, or at least understanding where they are on track. I think better curbing would help this a lot. Angled curbing would help a lot. So this way, when your track tire, when the tire is off the track, when your track tire reaches basically to the point where you're going to be off track, you get a little bump there to stay in. Right now, you have no idea where you are. You have no idea where you are driving, and you're driving so fast, you end up off track. You end up passing off track, and I don't think it's intentional. I think that's why it's a 5-second penalty, because it's not intentional. Hey, you're going to get away with it. You're not getting away with it.
Some of these are definitely, they know what they know what to do. They know what to do. They know
going
they'll
fast.
pass off the track, or they're pushing the other driver off the track. I mean, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. I don't want to hear that speed nonsense. This is a race car driver. You know.
I think the only way. I think
if you give a harsher, I don't think the 5-second penalty is good enough anymore. I think it should be like 10.
I don't think you go to time penalties. I don't think you go to time penalties. I don't think you go to time penalties at all.
Sometimes you give the 5-second penalty. The guy doesn't even come in. If they don't have the pit or anything, they just keep going, because say it's for example, you got a faster car behind the slower car, but that driver can't make the pass. So then he makes a pass, off track to get by the driver, takes the 5-second penalty, knowing that he can make that gap up. But he couldn't legally pass that car, so the 5-second penalty isn't really working there. The driver's not really getting. I think you need to. So I think you need to. I think 10 seconds.
No, I don't think any seconds at all.
I
think you're missing the whole point. And the point is, the seconds don't matter, because depending on if a safety car comes out, depending on what happens in life, depending on how fast or slow your car is versus the other cars, versus a tire change, it's points. You should lose points. You should penalize points. Because if it doesn't matter, you go after points. You go after the honeypot. You go after the points. It's direct, because you can lose 5 seconds and still end up, if you're going to be fourth or whatever, and you lose 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds, it doesn't matter. You're going to end up in the same position.
10 seconds would be a pretty...
But you let the race play out. I hate it because you let the race play out as it is. Let the race play out as it is. I'll take away 5 points quicker than 5 seconds. Daniel, calm yourself down a little bit. Daniel, chill out. I mean, Haas would have negative points, but you want to hurt them in their wallets.
Yeah, that's
hurt
fair.
them in their wallets. But I think, sir, that might be all the time we have today. Do you have more in the news?
I do not. We'll stop there.
That's perfect. Where are we going to in only a few days, sir?
Mexico City, baby.
Mexico City. We're going up the mountain, down from Austin, up in the mountain. By the way, I think the most charming thing about the entire weekend is having people from overseas in the media having no idea where things are in the U.S. No clue. And then Hollywood was like, oh, yeah, I'll take a cab. I'll get to Hollywood. We're really, I had it at least 5 times. We're really close to Hollywood. No, you're not. You're like in Eastern Europe away from Hollywood.